The internet seemingly have gone nuts over that recent Zack Snyder Vero post, that hidden picture of the Final Crisis book. Multiple sites wrote about it as well. What does it mean? What have people found out about it? All that discussion right here. Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix. My name is Chris Wong. Now, everybody has been talking about how Zack Snyder is suddenly making cryptic photos once again. Days before, he put out this clapperboard with some interesting numbers lettered on it. And on Thanksgiving, there was a Vero post that was like a shot that rang around the world. But are these actually cryptic messages, or is this just harmless posting? Well, on June 15 in 2020, Zack Snyder actually says that there is always a meaning to his post. When a fan asks, is this a cryptic message or a piece of art? Zack Snyder says, always both. And if you've been following the Snyder Cut, that is absolutely his MO. Everything he's posted about that had a meaning to it. There was always something behind those posts. And seemingly that may be the case now. In fact, people are still trying to decipher that clapperboard. Well, Chris Dawson may have actually just decoded that. On the clapperboard it says 279, which could be the scene 279. Chris Dawson found out that scene 279 was when Darkseid was talking to Zod. They found the anti-life equation, and that they should ready the Armada, which is what happens in Justice League 2 and when Darkseid and the Forces of Apocalypse come to Earth. Chris Dawson further explains, Leto sitting on the car is scene 302, so I make the film 307 scenes. 279 divided by 307 gives you 0.908. Multiply that by the pre-credits runtime of 233 minutes to get the point in the film by average where the scene would be, which is 211.5 minutes, exactly this scene. All it means is that he's probably pointing to the scene in that Vero post, which obviously makes sense with the Darkseid to Zod pick and the Final Crisis book posts. That's my contribution. I'll let you guys have fun theorizing what it's all about. So that right there, if true, does really connect to the second post. And once again, I have to remind you that Clay Staub, the second unit director of Justice League, put this out on November 22nd. Let it begin, Zack Snyder's Justice League, with a picture of a drawing for Justice League 2 where Darkseid and Zod arrive on Earth. And just yesterday, Clay Staub put this interesting photo out as well. Attitude is everything. And that what appears to be Mad Max's own Interceptor. Now, why is that interesting? Well, a fan pointed out that this is actually from the storyboards as well. In the Justice League storyboards, it said this. The mission starts at dawn. In a Fury Road-inspired Batmobile, the Justice League Batman, Green Lantern, Deadshot, and Mara break into the Stronghold, a cathedral swarming with anti-life controlled people, Darkseid soldiers, human priests kneel at the Mother Box. Batman says as soon as they get the Mother Box, Superman will be aware of them. As you know, it's going to be the nightmare future, and it's possible that Batman will still have his vehicle, and it would be like a Mad Max Fury Road inspired vehicle, like Mad Max's Interceptor that Clay Staub put the picture there. Now later, Clay Staub responds to that and says, "No, wait, it's just a Mad Max Fury Road picture, etc., etc." But I mean, just the amount of coincidences here, it keeps piling up. But the biggest conversation was still with that picture of the absolute Final Crisis on there, and what I forgot to mention was there's two things that are right on top of that book. What are those two brown folders or whatever on top of that book? Well, Scoot, who works in the industry, pointed this out to me. When someone asked, what do people reckon is on the top of Final Crisis? Justice League 2 storyboards? And Scoot tweeted this out. A Bible, also known as a show Bible or a pitch Bible, is a reference document used by screenwriters for information on characters, settings, and other elements of a television or film project. Hold on a minute. So that's Justice League 1 and 2. Pitches! Now Stephen Colbert says this is not the first time he's actually shown this. Not the first time Snyder teased that copy of Final Crisis, by the way. And the books on top are like what he does with his storyboards. Since there's just two thin ones, it's likely just the treatments he's had for JL2 and 3 all along. He switched to drawing on an iPad after JL1. Now what's interesting about that is that Stephen Colbert also says those are probably the JL2 and 3 treatment on top of the Final Crisis book. But what's interesting is that why is it off the shelf and on the kitchen table with the Thanksgiving dinner? And why did he feel the need to place it in such a way that when zooming in, it's still in the frame? To me, that just really seems like he's teasing that he's going to either pitch it or do something with that material. Now, over online, there was also talk about possible graphic novels. In fact, even my colleague, Dave the Film Junkie, had said that he could make a graphic novel out of it. Now, what's interesting about that is that Zack Snyder actually talked about pitching a graphic novel, Zack Snyder's Justice League story, before. This is from comicbookmovie.com. I watched the film last night, and like everyone else here, I loved it. When I woke up this morning, though, I saw that Restore Snyderverse was trending. I know, Zack, you've said you're not sure about a movie sequel, but would you consider a comic book one? I feel like you and Jim Lee together could do something really special. Yeah, I talked to Jim about it. We literally had a plan to do a comic book as a huge run. We were basically going to do a comic book based on the whiteboard I released in Dallas. Well, that I have up in Dallas. I don't think it was released. That was problematic, he laughs. I know you've all seen it though, so it's not like you haven't. So there was a comic book we were going to base on that, and then I wanted to do a mini run on the Joker-Robin story, on what was happening with Batman, what was happening with Joker, and what was happening with Robin. It would have been just that story as its own micro story. We were both super into it, but I think when there was the AT&T thing and a bunch of switches and cuts, so it got cut. But Jim said, maybe in the future, if there's fan support. We'll see. And it's possible maybe that future is now. Is he actually teasing the graphic novels for Justice League 2 and 3? That could very well be a possibility as well. But the conversation also went to, well, maybe he doesn't have time to make these two movies. He's got Rebel Moon, Planet of the Dead, and I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty sure that's going to be his priority right now. Would he transfer that director power over to somebody else? Well, this is what he said about Justice League. From Total Film and Games Radar, while sitting down with Snyder to chat about the upcoming Army of the Dead prequel Army of Thieves, we asked whether he would be open to another director continuing the Justice League story for him. Oh gosh, I wouldn't have thought of that, Snyder says. Listen, I loved making all those DC movies, and I love superheroes, and I love the genre. I'm very excited to see Matt Reeves' Batman movie, The Batman, so that's exciting. Something like that, though, I'm not sure. Which could also translate to him not being sure about giving that director responsibility to somebody else for either Planet of the Dead or Rebel Moon. Because Planet of the Dead and Rebel Moon are his babies. He's not going to let somebody else direct those movies, including the next Justice League sequels. So if there was a case that there would be a possibility that he could do a Justice League 2 and 3 in a Final Crisis type manner, I believe it would have to be after Planet of the Dead, Rebel Moon, many years down the road. Which, could kind of work at the end of this current DCEU slate that's coming out in 2022 and 2023. Which also makes me speculate that maybe they weren't entirely opposed to the idea of having Darkseid come to Earth as a endgame level event. Which, even though Zack Snyder wants to tell his entire story right from the get-go, does Warner Bros. DC really want to tell that Darkseid story, but at a later time? And since with the success of the Snyder Cut, it seems like directors like Andy Muschietti is really on board with that new storyline. And if you remember, Henry Cavill himself said that he wants to make another Superman movie before the events of Justice League 2, where the anti-life equation affects Superman.
And if he were to succumb to the anti-life equation and become bad Superman, I really wanted to make sure that we saw the hero, Superman, and we saw the true symbol of hope, the beacon of light, before we went down the path of darkness and then redemption. And still something that I am very keen to flesh out.
As if that was going to happen eventually down the road. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that even though they don't want to make Justice League 2 and 3 right now with Zack Snyder involved, maybe they want to develop the entire DCEU first, where Zack would come back at the end of this DCEU era and finish it up with his own Final Crisis event. I don't know if that's true. Maybe that's why they oppose the idea of having him introduce a Darkseid now, because they plan to have him come out later on. Yeah, we could have like an Elseworlds Lord of the Rings event over on HBO Max. But if they really tried to fight that this way, Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3 will be part of the DCEU. It's not a separate universe. They're going to put it in at the end of this DCEU. Who knows? Maybe at the end of the DCEU, we're going to have a lot more heroes doing that Justice League events, like Black Adam, Blue Beetle, Shazam, Batgirl. Sky's the limit.